Let's be honest, we are drowning in plastic. I mean, it's everywhere, in our oceans, in our food, it's even inside of us. The scale of this problem is just so massive, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. So the big question we're tackling today is, how do we actually fix this? Turns out the world is pretty split on the answer, and the future of our planet might just depend on which path we end up choosing.
So get this. Every single year, we generate over 400 million tons of plastic waste. That's about the same weight as the entire human population on Earth. It's a staggering number, right? And that number is the backdrop for this global showdown between two very, very different ideas about how we solve this crisis.
You see, on one side, you've got the innovators. These are the scientists and engineers who truly believe we can invent our way out of this whole mess with newer, better materials. And on the other side, you have the regulators, the diplomats and policymakers who argue the only real solution is to turn off the plastic tap at its source. So let's start with the innovators.
Okay, so this first approach is built on a really powerful idea that human ingenuity, through new tech and advanced science, can create plastics that work with our planet, not against it. And believe me, there is a lot of money betting on this future.
Just take a look at the market for biodegradable plastics. It's already valued at over $12 billion in 2025, but it's projected to just skyrocket to $44 billion by 2032. That's nearly a fourfold increase in less than a decade. So what's behind this incredible explosion?
Well, it's really a perfect storm. You've got governments in huge markets like the EU and China banning certain single-use plastics. Then you have giant corporations making these big pledges to use more sustainable packaging. And of course, there's us, you and me, the consumers, demanding greener products. All of this pressure is pushing the science forward, creating bioplastics that work better than ever before.
And some of the stuff they're coming up with sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. I mean, scientists have actually built a reactor that can literally pull dissolved CO2 out of seawater and then use electrochemistry and microbes to turn it into a key ingredient for biodegradable plastics. It's this incredible vision of a future where we're cleaning our oceans and creating sustainable stuff all at the same time. But is it really that simple?
As exciting as all these new gadgets and materials are, we kind of have to ground ourselves in the reality of the plastic that we already have. This is where the optimism of the lab crashes into the hard challenges of the real world.
This quote from Professor Wolfgang Zimmermann, who is a top expert in this area, really gets to the heart of the problem. You see, some of the most promising new recycling methods use special enzymes to basically eat the plastic. But as he points out, these amazing enzymes just don't work on the plastics we use the most.
And when you look at the details, the problem gets super clear. Polyolefins, that's your everyday stuff like polyethylene and polypropylene used in bags and containers, and PVC are pretty much immune to these enzymes. Even the tough, high crystallinity PET, the kind in a lot of plastic bottles, can't be broken down. And these plastics, well, they make up a huge chunk of our global waste. So the takeaway here is, our magic recycling bullet, it doesn't work on most of the targets.
And here's the final kicker. Even when we do use a good bioplastic, like PLA, it's made from things like corn or sugarcane, it often just ends up in a landfill anyway. Why? Because for it to actually biodegrade the way it's supposed to, it has to go to a special industrial composting facility, and those are still incredibly rare. So if technology by itself has these major limits, what's the other option?
Well, that brings us to the second big idea. The argument here is pretty simple. If we can't effectively recycle our way out of this mountain of plastic waste, then we have to stop it at the source by creating global, legally binding rules. And for a moment there, it looked like the world was actually going to do just that.
The journey started with so much hope back in 2022. You had 175 nations agreeing to create a plastics treaty. People were calling it the biggest environmental deal since the Paris Accord. But since then, the whole process has just hit a wall. Talks in both Busan and then again in Geneva, they ended in total gridlock. To understand why, we need to look at what they were fighting about.
The entire fight boils down to this one term: primary plastic polymers. Just think of these as the raw, brand-new plastic pellets made directly from fossil fuels before they get melted down and molded into bottles or bags or car parts. This is ground zero. This is the very start of the plastic life cycle.
So, these global treaty negotiations basically became a massive showdown over whether to control these primary polymers. It's a clash between two totally opposite views of where the problem really begins.
On one side, you have the High Ambition Coalition. That's over 95 countries, including the UK and a lot of small island nations. They are demanding a legally binding global target to actually reduce how much new plastic is produced. But on the other side, there's a group that includes major oil-producing nations. They want to focus only on recycling and waste management and let each country set its own voluntary goals. So basically, one side wants to shrink the pipeline, and the other just wants to get better at cleaning up the spill.
And in this standoff, it's probably worth noting who else was in the room. At these treaty negotiations, there were at least 234 registered lobbyists from the fossil fuel and chemical industries. You have to remember, for them, with global demand for fuel looking like it's going to plateau, plastic is their next big growth market. Their whole economic future is tied to making more of it, not less.
So what was the result? A complete and total impasse. As the environmental group Pacific Environment put it after the latest talks failed in August 2025, the world's diplomats just couldn't agree. And now, there's just no clear path forward for a global treaty.
So, here we are. After exploring both paths, the promise of incredible innovation and the frustrating gridlock of global regulation, we're left at this critical crossroads. The future of plastic and maybe our planet is just hanging in the balance.
And that leaves us with this one final crucial question. With global regulation completely stalled, who's going to decide what happens next? Will our future be shaped by the scientists in the lab creating the next generation of materials? Or will the world's nations finally break this deadlock and force a real cap on production? Right now, the answer is, well, it's completely undecided. And the path we ultimately take will define not just the future of plastic, but the health of our planet for generations to come.